We match. Love when that happens. Welcome to The Cup, the Currently Unnamed Podcast, where we put the real and the tea in reality, and you can always come to us first to quench your thirst. I'm David Healy, and I don't have a cute intro, but I do have a cute shirt. I just got this shirt in the mail a couple of days ago, so I figured I would debut it on the podcast. But it is the one and the only. Ooh, let me find this clip. I have to play this clip if I'm wearing this shirt.
I'm trying to guess. We'll see.
First of all, you have to remember what you said. First of all, you have
Yes, it is Kennedy Davenport, which is long overdue. I don't know why I haven't had one until now, but yeah, I like this shirt. And I'm currently just drinking some water, but I also have a cup mug. And you can get a cup mug too at lonagcreations.etsy.com. We do ship internationally, and there are no excuses.
Unless there are some excuses. But hey, something might change around here sometime soon, and we might have some more members with a cup mug. We'll see who. I don't know. Guess. But hi, I'm River, your Brazilian correspondent here on The Cup. And today I'm also just drinking some water because I am ready to talk about this episode. And today I chose my Mafalda mug because I haven't used this enough.
Nice. Well, yeah, we are going to get into this episode. Spoiler alert, River really liked it. And I have thoughts too. I thought it was a good episode.
Okay, cool.
I thought it was a good episode. But before we dive into it, please do us a favor. Please subscribe to this channel. And also while you're here, just go ahead and like this video, share this video with your friends, leave comments. We appreciate all of those things. It helps us get seen by a bigger audience. So, but now let's get into it. So we have all the queens coming back after the elimination of Siam, and they're wiping down the mirror, and Gigi is saying that there's no unfinished business between the two of them, and she's sad that Siam is gone, and she really loves her. And I'm like, okay, good. We got a resolution, and that's maybe why she went home, since it sounds like you don't have a storyline anymore with her.
But it was a topic of discussion for a little bit in the beginning of the episode, and it was good but also strange because like I get it, but it was a little weird because they were talking about like how they, now that she's gone, they feel like maybe she didn't have the best experience and maybe they had a part in that. So I do love that they are self-aware.
Right.
Love that. But then who was it that said, Nanning said, we made comments based on only a few days that we knew her. And I'm like, exactly. And that's the thing. The comments that they made after just a few days of knowing her were very out of pocket for like just a few days, in my opinion. Or just very, very intense, I guess, thought opinions on a person that you met just like in a few days. When you just meet someone, you don't tell them that they're not showing you who they really are. How would you know? You just met them. It doesn't make sense to me. But it was good TV though. It was. Gotta say that.
Yeah. It was Spicy who kept saying like, did we attack her too much? And I'm like, if you have to use the word attack, yeah, you probably did it too much because the correct amount is 0. Don't attack people.
Like I understand with being like, after you do something, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But like they are worried about how she's feeling now that she's not there anymore, so that they can change the way that she's feeling. I'm like, it's right. a little too late. But
and Frankie's also wondering how will the audience think we hated her? Yeah, we did think that.
Yeah.
It sure seemed that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It is how it came off, right? We don't know if that is the reality, but it was what was shown to us in the reality television show. But I don't think it was malicious, but it was very much what they were saying happened. It was very bad.
Yeah, and then this next part kind of confused me a little bit. They all like gather around the couch, and Gigi starts crying, and it's something about a comment she said Godlin or somebody said to her that she doesn't understand the words when she lip syncs. and so she's trying really hard to understand the words to her lip sync songs, but that just seemed kind of random.
Do they mean by that she doesn't connect to the lyrics of the song, or that she doesn't? Was that what they meant? They meant like the connection to the lyrics.
I mean, I thought that they meant she's not thinking about the words that she's lip syncing, and therefore is not interpreting it the way that it's meant to be done.
Right.
Which, I mean, I'm kind of guilty of that. Like if I'm singing along with a pop song and somebody asks me what's that song about, I'm like, I don't know. I just have the words memorized. I don't think about it. I have to like sit there and deliberately think about the meaning behind songs, just because I don't dig into music that deep generally.
Yeah, it is very different. It differs from person to person because I'm very much the opposite.
Mhm.
So, honestly, for them, thinking about like their situation, they get an like MP3 or an iPod or something with the songs, and if it has songs that you already know, it's easier to find that connection and be able to express it, different things throughout that song. But if it's a song that you just heard for the first time and then you have to learn the lyrics first, memorize the lyrics, and then add something to it, it is very hard to do that second part when you spend so much time doing the first part and everything else in the competition. So I understand, but I didn't really agree totally with that comment. At least I didn't notice
Me neither.
that in any of Gigi's performances.
Right.
But when that happened was I noticed that truly we are only getting half the story. Because something is missing for us that kind of, I feel like there are a lot of like blanket spaces between what we see and what's happening. So it was a little bit confusing at times when they talk about like what's happening in the workroom. So,
Yeah,
but that's
I
not it's
agree.
the editing. It's a little.
Yeah, part of me is like, do they talk about things in the hotel room that we don't get to see? And that's why it's kind of like, because I'm like, if Godlin said that or somebody, she didn't even know who said it. Like, why didn't we see it?
Yeah.
But speaking of Godlin, they do all congratulate her on her win, but she is not in the mood to be receptive to that because she feels guilty. She feels guilty specifically about giving ZP a part that she didn't want in the Rusical, and so she doesn't feel like she can celebrate her win. I'm like, it's not that big deal. This happens like by nature of this design. Not everybody can get the role they want, so just celebrate
It
your
would make
win.
sense if it was a situation where like ZP said, "This is the only character that I do not want," and then Goblin gave her that character. Then I would kind of understand, right?
Yeah,
It's still a competition, so I wouldn't blame Goblin for that, but I would understand ZP's side a lot more.
right.
But I didn't even remember, or did we see that ZP didn't want that character? Because I don't remember that.
They
That's
might
something
have
that we also.
briefly. Yeah, there was not a lot of drama over the like handing out of the roles last episode, so I thought people were mostly fine with it.
Yeah. And then they cut after Godwin says that, they cut to CP in confessional, I think, like kind of saying that she thought that Godwin was like shady for that. And I'm like, I'm missing something. I'm frustrated because am I even here? That's how I
Right.
felt.
I'm with you. Well, we do get into the next day in the workroom when they all come in, they gather around the table, they start talking about the normal things they do, they speculate on what the challenge could be. There was not a lot that really stood out to me from this conversation. It was mostly just people being like, "Oh, I'm so exhausted," or "Oh, I'm so sore from the role I had to play in the musical." But it wasn't like a
One
lot
of
that.
them, I don't remember who it was. I think it was CP. She said that one of them said that they missed Siam. And I'm like, okay,
Oh yeah, and they do
okay,
her
we
voice.
get it.
Who was it that did the like imitated what her voice is like? Was that Spicy?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
yeah. But I was just like, okay, sure. It felt very much like Brita Filter after Aiden Zane was eliminated. Very much that. Same energy.
Dang it, I miss picking on somebody.
Right? The first thing that I thought when they gather around that table, the 6 of them, I was like, okay, so who are they gonna pick on next? Because they're all friends. Are they gonna
Mhm.
gang up on someone else? Are they gonna start firing at each other? Like, or are they all gonna be just buddy buddy? Who knows?
It's mostly buddy, at
Right.
least from what I
Yeah.
noticed.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
I prefer it that way.
Mhm. I agree. But Pangina does come into the room and announces that there's going to be a mini challenge. So everybody has to get in quick drag, but they are going to be doing a thing where they have a lot of wig reveals. So
Hmm.
always into a good wig reveal.
The
Um,
impact of Roxy Andrews.
exactly. But so they all start doing so they're all doing like this kind of like rhythmic chant thing as the person performs, which is kind of fun to watch. And then slowly, one by one, they just show like at least three wigs for
Yeah.
each of them. Did you have any standouts?
Yeah, I think it was fun overall, but I liked that they all have like different ways of doing the reveals and very different styles. So my favorite was Godlin because I thought she was creative and funny. Like she had like a funny ending. Spicy was my second because she was fierce, just fierce. And then Nane as well because she was fun and creative as well, like with the confetti and all of that. So any of them, I would be happy to see winning, and one of them
Mhm.
did. So
Yeah, the one that stood out to me the most was actually Frankie. Um, Frankie wasn't giving like a lot in the performance, but I like how the wigs were revealed. And then
mm,
I got my one genuine surprise was when Frankie lifted up the skirt and had the wig on the crotch. I was like, oh, I did not see that coming. So I thought that
mhm.
was clever. Somebody that stood out for me negatively was actually Gigi. Just because I felt like she went way too quick. It was like wig, 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 and it was like, okay, let it soak in a little bit. And then she faked us out with the last one, but there wasn't another one. But I did think that Nane did well. I just thought it was a little messy at times. Like you could see like the next wig under each wig. So I was a little surprised, but we did get our mini challenge winner as Nane Safira. So
I think it was mainly because they thought she was creative, I
mhm,
guess, in the way that not the most polished in the reveal, the actual act of the reveal, but maybe the creativity. I don't know.
mhm,
Or they just wanted to give her money. Who knows?
right. But yes, she does get some money and she gets an advantage in the upcoming Maxi Challenge. So we find out that the Maxi Challenge is going to be a double trouble challenge, and they have to break up into pairs, and they will be doing some improvising. But as the winner of the mini challenge, Nane gets to pick her teammate, and she picks ZP.
Smart.
um, Not surprising at all. I think that's a great
Hmm.
choice. But then she gets to pair up the other ones. Really, she only names one other pair, and then we get a pair by default. But
Yeah.
she pairs up Gigi and Godlin together, which some people are like, "Oh, is this shady? Is she trying to sabotage them?"
Spicy cuts to spicy and confessional. Like, ooh, that's not a good pair. They are shade. I like that shade. That's fun.
Mhm. Yes.
But
So by
who was it? Oh, Gigi said in confessional that she didn't want to be paired with Godlin
Mhm,
later on. Yeah.
she did. Yeah, so by default, then we do get Frankie and Spicy Sunshine as a pair together. So we find out that they are going to be doing these improv scenes in duos, but they're going to be fed keywords throughout that they have to incorporate into their improv. I'm like, okay, how's this going to work? Like, I was really confused at first. I thought it was one keyword. Um,
Right. I thought it was just like one, but they do have like they pair up and then they get um like a prompt
right.
situation where they're given like who they are as like what the characters are
Hmm.
and what is the event or situation that they're doing. That plus the keywords, I was like, okay,
Right.
that's a lot, but I like this challenge.
Me
I
too.
think it's really creative and fun.
Yes. So Pangina tells Nane and ZP that they're going to be two news anchors reading the news in Thailand. Gigi and Godlin are going to be two drag queens on the first date in a park. And then Frankie and Spicy are going to be old rivals who meet up at a funeral. Um, yeah,
They got the best prompt. I gotta be
mhm,
honest. Like just off the bat before we watched the results, like when they got that prompt, I was like, that's the winning one if they do it well. It was the
mhm.
best potential for funny.
I agree. Yes. So Godlin starts talking, and she thinks that the scenario will work perfectly for her and Gigi. And this is where we find out that Gigi is like, "Oh, I didn't want to be paired with Godlin." Like, oh. And then we see a little bit of Nane and ZP talking about like why Nane picked ZP, and Nane
Mhm.
thinks that ZP, like if there's any struggles, she thinks ZP will be somebody who can really uh, like pick them back up with her improv skills, which is smart and probably does come to fruition. But I was surprised by how quick they got into the actual filming of this challenge. It was like, oh, we're already there.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they for us watching was quick. I feel like for them it was definitely the same day, like they didn't have time to prepare, but I feel like maybe they got at least like an hour,
Mhm.
I would guess, to like kind of go through it and brainstorm a little bit.
Yeah.
I would
And
get and get
it
ready.
makes it makes sense. If you're supposed to be improvising, then like you shouldn't be preparing too
Yeah.
much.
Just like
Um,
to for them to talk, like the pairs to talk to each other and kind of be like decide who the characters are gonna be and all of that. Right?
mhm,
Like that kind of preparation.
yeah. But I think we can get into the challenge now. I will say though, um, for me, I like this challenge. It does feel a little bit like a mini challenge to me. I don't know if you felt that way.
In the way that they showed it to us, yes. I
Mhm,
feel like on paper it's a really great idea, but in the way that they actually the production executed it, what felt a little bit like a mini challenge, but the actual challenge of doing what they had to do was not mini at all. So
mhm.
I feel like it was maybe just the presentation of the challenge, because it was one of the like it was a really hard challenge to do, clearly.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like I saw it and I'm like, "Oh, this looks pretty easy." But I didn't try it myself. So it's really hard to know for sure until you do it because I'm like, why are people struggling so much? But
Hmm.
let's go ahead and pull up this slide. We have all of our groupings here. And I figure instead of talking about them individually, we can just talk about them as a pair. So let's go ahead and start off with our first duo. We have ZP and Nane as the news anchors. And what I noticed with Nane is that it was taking her a while to get to the keywords. Like they would be up on the screen, and I'm like, "Come on, you gotta use some of those words." It often came down to ZP starting off by like incorporating the words into the scenario. I do think eventually Nane got her groove and started actually using the words, but she just went off the rails with it. Like it was not relevant to whatever they were just talking about. So poor ZP kept having to rein it back to their job as news anchors. And it was a little chaotic. And of course, this was the first one we saw. So I'm like, whoa, this is a lot to take in. And it was so hard to even concentrate on what they were saying, especially because the subtitles, I don't know about for you watch them with English subtitles
Yeah.
as well. So it would show them talking, but then when the new prompt would show up, it would throw that in the subtitles too. So I would have to train my brain to be like, oh, that's
Hmm.
not what somebody's saying. That's the prompt on the side, which
I had to
already has it in
rewind
English.
many times because
Hmm.
of exactly that.
Yeah, it already had it in English. So I don't know. It's throwing it up as a subtitle. So yeah, that was confusing. I do think that they did a good job of using a lot of words. They just weren't on focus with the theme and kept spiraling into different conversations that were not relevant to the conversation.
Not even relevant to the
Mhm.
conversation. Yeah.
But for me, they were the middle group.
Oh, for sure. The safe group,
hmm
no question. I feel like to me, the Nani had a hard time merging the two parts of this challenge together. Because one challenge was the improv, like the prompt that they got of like the news anchor and all of that. So that was very open. But then when she had to focus on the keywords, it's like she focused on the keywords and then she forgot about the prompt. And then when she was doing the prompt, she forgot to use the keywords. So it was kind of like she did the challenge separately. She was not able to merge the two things that they were asked to merge on the challenge. But yeah, it was a little frenetic by the end. But I felt like CP she did the best that she could with saving it and kind of steering it back to the right direction and bringing it back and keeping the flow a little bit. And she was the one that for me had funny moments, but it came to a point that I just did not know what I was watching.
hmm
Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily today for me, because I was like I told you earlier, I was having a horrible day. And then I watched this episode and it completely changed my mood because this challenge was so stupid and just so nonsense and a fever dream. And then my day got better. So I'm just
hmm
happy with even the ones that we're going to talk about next brighten up my day. So I'm happy. This is why I might be biased to talk about this episode because I liked it so much because it just brightened my mood. But
I agree. Oh, another highlight I wanted to point out. So they had a keyword jet ski, and then after it they had volleyball. Um, and they had the way that they incorporated that. I loved it. They were like, "Oh, she just found a jet ski on a volleyball court."
on a
I
volleyball
was
court,
like, "What?"
naturally.
So yeah,
But
that was my
honestly,
highlight.
I felt like Nane and CP got the hardest keywords
hmm
to like flow from one keyword to the next.
Mm,
Their choices of words were the hardest, I think.
yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
But our next duo, we had Gigi and Godland. Um, okay, this was rough. Yeah, it took them a while to go anywhere with the keywords. Like I was looking at the countdown and I was like, oh, it took 16 seconds for them to even use the first keyword. Because they had to introduce themselves to each other. And I'm like, if this is your first date, like, do you need to introduce yourselves to each other?
It's a
Unless it's a
first
blind
date,
date.
not a blind date.
Right. I was like, you all are just wasting time doing that. But then as they went along, there were a lot of awkward pauses where neither of them were saying something. And I really do think it was more Gigi's fault. Like it felt like Godlin was trying to set her up, but Gigi just wasn't taking the bait. And eventually we find out in the like a confessional that Godlin's like, I think I misunderstood this. I thought we were supposed to take turns using the keywords. And I kind of wish that was a rule. Um,
Who was the person from Challenge that didn't explain it
mm,
correctly to the girls? Who was it? I want to know. Hmm.
yeah, somebody
There
mess
is
up.
a production, there is a person in charge of that, explaining the rules of the challenge to the contestants. So somebody there failed, not
Mhm,
Godwin, I don't think.
yep. Even when they did find a word that they wanted to incorporate into it, it felt like they were trying to think about like, oh, how can I set this up so it sounds organic? And they would just take a while to get there. Like they would get there eventually, but they had to like set up like a couple of sentences before to make it make sense. And I'm like, while I think like somebody like Nane was just throwing it in there randomly, they were being way too deliberate with using the words. Like there's a happy medium in there, which I think a couple people got out of all 6 of them, but definitely not everybody. But yeah, for me, this was definitely the weakest duo.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like maybe both of them misunderstood the assignment. I don't know. Godwin was the one that said it, but I feel like maybe Gigi did as well because I don't know. Maybe I don't know what happened, but this was tough to watch. Was it entertaining? Yes, because it was so uncomfortable and so cringe
Yes,
that it was just
cringe.
like, when something is so bad that it goes back to being good.
Mhm.
This was that for me. Um, and I felt bad at times, but then at the same time, like they got, in my opinion, an easier, or I'm not gonna say easier, a simpler prompt and simpler keywords to be added to that made sense. They made more sense with the prompt and was easier to kind of throw in a regular conversation than the first group. And they were
Mhm.
able to do worse. So that to me is a feat in itself. And I commend them for that and for entertaining me because it was fun. I was
Mhm.
entertained, but
Um,
it was bad.
yeah, I'll say a highlight for them. So they had running, and then the next word was security guard. And I think Godlin was the one talking about how, oh yeah, I was running. And Gigi was like, oh, where were you running? Um, I was running to be a security guard. And I was like,
Like, how
what?
do you not, like, it's immediate, like, oh, I was running from a security guard because I
From
had
a
stolen
security.
something from a store, like something, literally anything. I don't know if it's because I'm a yapper and I can talk about anything for any amount of time, but like this, I don't know. Maybe they were overthinking it and like they felt like things needed to make sense more than they actually did. Because it needs to make a little bit of sense, right?
Mhm.
That so that that we don't get completely lost like the first one. But also it doesn't have to be a regular, like this is not supposed to be a regular TV show. It's supposed to be camp and funny and stupid. So
Mhm. But then we have our last duo. It is Spicy Sunshine and Frankie. So
this
what I
was
know,
funny and camp and
it,
stupid.
it was there was a lot going on, and I think that they had a really good prompt as we talked about earlier. So that definitely helped. It did get a bit chaotic as well with them though, and I think it's because I think Spicy was treating this like the main challenge is to use as many words as possible. So she
Hmm.
was flying through them. And I noticed, I was counting it, like at one point there was like a 6-word streak where Spicy said all 6 of the words. She did not give Frankie any moments to use them. Like Frankie would say like two words and then Spicy would jump in and be randomly throwing in a word, and it just did not make sense half of the time. But she was doing it in an entertaining way, so I give her some grace there. Where like Nane was doing the same thing, but in a way that was just more confusing. Um, but I do think eventually Frankie started to find the groove and was like, okay, if this is the pace Spicy's going to go, I'm going to have to step it up and try to match that so I don't just fade away. I want to say some of the words. Um, but it really did feel to me like Spicy was treating this like, oh, whoever does the most words between the pair is the one that does better. So I'm glad Frankie stepped it up. It did get unhinged, but I was entertained the whole time. I do think Frankie was the grounded one here. So I like Frankie the best for sure. And I did like them snatching the wigs. I thought that was a nice cap on the end. But yeah,
A nice
definitely the
wig
best team.
cap at the okay.
Mhm.
Um okay, I agree. I feel like they started off really well, like the pace and the banter, and not the banter, but like the exchange between how much Frankie would talk and then Spice, like they were able to balance out um the performances well at first. And then I felt like by the middle, Spicy kind of went off, um and was a little a little unhinged, just a
Mhm.
tiny bit. Not in a bad way. It was still entertaining the whole way through, from the first second to after they finished, and they were still like going. But I feel like maybe either Spicy got like nervous throughout, like by the middle of the challenge, and then she like sped up the pace. Because then by the end, I felt like she kind of like went back to what she was in the beginning, like still a lot and too much, but not like unhinged like she was in the middle of it. Because I feel like maybe it was Frankie like was able to find the spaces and kind of like roll it back and kind of like not roll back, but like find the space between what Spicy was doing, and then Spicy kind of was like able to breathe and then come back, because she felt a little anxious, which
Mhm.
felt weird because they were doing well. So I was like, maybe it was that. Maybe she was like confused and thought that she had to use as many words as possible. But yeah, still they were still the best by far. Uh and I still liked what Spicy did, and she had a lot of funny moments. But Frankie just had a way of using the keywords in such a smart and quick way that just
Right.
made sense with everything that they were doing, and also left a space open to add something to it. It wasn't like um the end of a conversation and then they had to find a new topic. It was something that could be added on by Spicy, um and would always marry so well with the next keyword. So
Yep.
like Frankie was a master for me on this, for
For sure.
sure the best.
Mhm. Yeah, thinking about it, I think I can quickly rank them. For me, it was definitely Frankie number 1, ZP number 2, and they were clearly my top 2. And then I would probably have Spicy as 3rd, and then Nane is 4th,
Hmm.
Godlin is 5th, and Gigi 6th.
Same.
Okay.
For me, I honestly don't know who I would like for Goblin and Gigi. Could
Godlin's
be
the
either,
hardest one.
honestly.
Oh, yeah, see, it was
But then
definitely
I
Gigi
would
last for me.
I would untie it on the runway, but for the challenge, they
Hmm,
did equally as bad to me.
okay. Yeah, but see, for me, I think it was Gigi that was kind of dragging them down a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because it felt like she was slower to jump in when Godlin would set up something. So that's why I would have Gigi lower. But yeah, both of them were pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But after that, we do go back to the workroom and we see some conversations. I can't remember. I think it was either Godland or Spicy who, I think it was Godland who starts asking people, "Oh, why are you here? What made you decide to apply to be here?"
But
And
are you here? Though
are
that's
you
also an
here?
important
Do
question.
you think you're here?
Do you think you were here?
Hmm. So they all start talking about the reasons that they're on the show. Spicy was talking about how she wanted a bigger platform. And Frankie was like, I wanted to do this because I wanted to be famous. And I'm like, okay,
Love that.
yes, I respect that.
I respect that so much. Like it, because here's the thing: there are a lot of drag queens that do go on Drag Race for many other reasons, but a lot of them go on Drag Race because they want to be famous, and that is fine. I have
Hmm.
no problem with that. I do have a problem with the queens that clearly went on the show because they want to be famous and claim that they went on the show for a different reason. I have a problem with that,
Right.
but I really appreciated Frankie for that. It was so auntie to me. Um, and Spicy mentioned that she eventually wanted to do a show on in
On
Vegas,
Vegas.
and
Yeah.
I was like, Vegas Live, call Spicy. I would love to
Mhm.
see it.
I would too. That would be fun because we haven't really had many international queens. I know Pangina
Pangina,
performed, but other than that, I can't think of anybody.
Tiana would be great as well from Philly.
Mm, mhm, for sure. And then
But
we
yeah, I feel like Spicy's dream is very feasible.
yeah, it's
Very.
attainable.
Hmm.
Hmm. But then Nane starts talking about the reason that she applied was because her boyfriend wanted her to do it. Um, and that kind of like deviated into a different conversation because people were like, oh, drag queen with a boyfriend? What's that? And we've had variations of this conversation where, like, sometimes when you're a drag performer, people aren't like seeing you as a desirable partner because maybe you're too feminine now and they want somebody more masculine. So they briefly talked about that. It just felt like a quick swerve into a different conversation.
Yeah. Maybe they went into it more, but because for this episode was already pretty full,
Mhm.
maybe we didn't get like more of it because of that. But and also because we already had that conversation in many franchises. Not that
Right.
it's not important, but I feel like if there wasn't anything more to it, I feel like that was enough for
Mhm.
this episode at least.
Yep. That makes sense. But with that said, we start getting into the runway. So Pangina is Pikachu. I did recognize this, even though I knew nothing about Pokemon.
Immediately. I mean, Pikachu and a fuck ass Bob. Come on.
Yes,
I
I
mean,
love
come
the
on
name.
now. And when she said the runway theme, I was confused because I was like, what? What does that mean? But then when the
Mhm.
first person came out, I was like, oh, so Pangina was on theme.
Mhm.
Period.
I guess so. Is Pikachu like a gay icon?
Yes. I mean, for me, but
Okay.
I would guess I would guess yes.
Mhm. What Pokemon would
Maybe
you
it's
dress
because
as?
maybe it's only in Brazil. I don't know. If it is
Mm.
outside, let me know. But because he says pica, right? And
Oh
then
yeah,
pica in Portuguese is dick.
Dick.
So
That
yeah,
makes sense.
you see how that connects.
Yes. So if you were dressing as a Pokemon, who would it be?
Ooh, nine tails.
Yeah, I don't
Nine
know
tails.
what that is.
Period.
I'll have to Google that, but I would definitely be a Snorlax because
Oh,
Snorlax is my spirit animal.
oh yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. That's how I feel on the inside, right? But nine tails is how I feel on the outside.
Mhm.
So.
Fair. But yes, we are going to talk about the icon looks that everybody did, but we'll do that on Look Over Here. We'll give our detailed thoughts. We'll give our scores, and it's a very interesting runway. So I'm interested in getting into it. Uh,
Mhm.
but we do get some critiques from the judges. First of all, they announced ZP is safe, and I'm like, wait, what?
What?
I was like,
Literally what?
there's no reason to do that. We have 6 people. Just have 3 tops, 3 bottoms. No need to send ZP off by herself. Plus, she was clearly one of the 2 best people in this challenge.
This was
Clearly.
so strange to me. So weird.
Mhm.
Mm, sense not found.
Right. Even the feedback, so they start going through individually and giving people feedback. I'll admit I was spoiled on who went home and who won the challenge before the episode, but I was like, okay, well, I need to put the other puzzle pieces together and figure out,
Mhm.
do we have 2 tops, 3 tops, or do we have 3 bottoms, 2 tops? I don't, and
Because
I
they
was just
judged as
watching.
individuals instead
Mhm.
of the pairs.
Exactly. So I'm listening to the feedback, and they have a lot of strong critiques for everybody because they go in order. Frankie was the last person they got to. They're talking to everybody and picking apart everything they did. And I'm like, okay, I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. But wait, who is in the top? Who is in the top?
Besides Frankie, who's in the top?
Right.
From the comments, right? I was like, so it's Frankie's in the top and then everyone else is in the bottom. Okay.
Yes, that's what I was getting. I was like, is this a bottom 4? We will
This
get into
episode
that.
was so confusing. I'm not mad. It's just it was one of my favorite episodes from this season, but it was so confusing in many ways.
Mhm. Oh, but they talked to Gigi on the runway, and they ask her if she's stressed out because, like, there's clearly something going on with her, and
Mhm.
she says, "Can I scream right now?" And they're like, "Sure, girl, go for it." And she just lets out this guttural scream, and I'm like, "Wow, good for you, girl.
I
Good for you."
loved that moment
Mhm,
because it's just like they could tell that she was going through a lot and she needed to let it out, and they let her. And
mhm,
after she let it out, she was able to express it in words, in
right,
her own way, right?
yep,
But when you're feeling that much emotion, you need to let it out in any kind of way that you want to. So I
mhm.
just really love that we got to see that because it could have happened and they didn't show it, but I love that they put it in the episode for us.
Yeah, and at first I was like, "Oh, is she doing this as, like, a funny bit?" But she went immediately from the scream to tears, like, she was
Crying,
crying.
exactly. Yeah.
Mhm. So that's what I liked about it. I was like, "Oh, this is so genuine."
I
Um
related so hard because that is literally me. That is very me.
Mhm.
Like
Yep,
screaming and then crying immediately.
yep. She says that she's just hearing in her voice, like, constantly, "Why? Why? Why? Why?" Why about all sorts of things, and that's fair. I mean, it's been a rough competition for her. She's been
Yeah.
in the bottom almost half of the episodes. So, but then,
So we got that's why part of the reason why we got many great lip syncs this season because she's
true,
so good.
true. And Pangina tells Nane, she's like, "This is the first time that I've really felt like you tripped in the competition," um, which is fair. I mean, I really think she's done extremely well, and I agree. This is probably her worst episode so far,
Yeah.
at
But
least
I
at least in
really
the
loved
challenge.
what's the name of the guest judge? Because first of all, she was so beautiful.
Right.
But I loved the comment that she gave to Nane being like, I don't remember exactly, but she said something in the realms of there are people that thrive on improv and people that thrive being prepared. And you seem
Mhm,
like someone that thrives on being prepared and practiced, and you seem like a very hardworking, talented person. This was just not the way that you are able to show your talent the best. That's kind of what she said. And that was one of my favorite comments from a guest judge ever. Like, that was
mhm,
so smart and thoughtful. And like, I love that moment.
yep.
That's a real, like, constructive critique.
Yeah, and it made her even more relatable to me because I'm that person. I'm like, if I'm going into something, I want to be as prepared as possible. I don't want to wing it. Winging it is a nightmare to me. Maybe it's the Capricorn in me. I don't know. I don't know anything about
But
astrology.
that's fair. And like, and that's the thing. It doesn't mean that she or you are not like talented or good at stuff or whatever. It's just people thrive in different environments.
Mhm. Then we get Untucked, and I was asking myself,
Finally.
is this the first Untucked we've had?
And then the first Untucked we have starts with what felt like 5 minutes of CP butter. I'm like, what is that happening? This
She's just talking to those wigs. I'm
is
like, girl, full
the first
conversation.
Untucked of the season, and they spend the first minutes just with one person talking to herself. Like, okay, okay.
Mhm. Uh, But eventually everybody else comes in there. Gigi's still emotional. She tells everybody that she thought about quitting, like just
Hmm.
ending it right there. And I'm
I'm
glad she
going home.
didn't. Yeah. I'm glad
It's
she
fair.
didn't. But
But then a lot of like some of the girls mentioned that they also like not that they like actually like considered doing it, but the thought had crossed their heads as well. What I got from this Untucked is that the girls are exhausted.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But afterwards they all come back out on stage and we do find out that we have a top 2 maybe.
I guess.
According to the Drag Race Wikipedia, the top 2 is Frankie Wonga and Spicy Sunshine?
Question mark?
Question mark, because Spicy got some pretty strong critiques about her performance and it was all justified. But of course, the winner is Frankie and very much deserved. And that leaves us with the bottom three of Godland, Gigi Ferocious, and Nane Safira. And personally, I was thinking, I think Nane should be the one that's safe. It makes sense that the team that struggled should be lip syncing against each other because neither of them were good.
Yeah. And
But
honestly, Nane was not great, but she attempted. Like she missed a lot, but she was trying. She was speaking, she was trying something. The other team, they tried to a certain degree, but it was very much like,
it was like a shrug.
yeah, it was very low energy. It was when you leave space for them to put crickets, it's tough.
Mhm.
It's tough.
And even if it was close, like use runway as a tiebreaker. And for me, I'm just going to spoil it. I think Nane definitely had the best runway.
Yeah, I mean, not better than Gigi, I don't think, but like, because
Okay.
Gigi to me was the person that had to be in the bottom. Honestly, Gigi and Godlin. I don't see any, like, to me, it didn't even matter what they did on the runway. It had, like, no question it had to be them, for me. Maybe it makes sense if production wants to give Nane, like, a vulnerable storyline of, like, oh, she was doing so great, but then she fell in the bottom, and then she made it to the finale, whatever, like, whatever. She was doing too well, and she needed to be in the bottom at least once. I don't know. Because it doesn't make sense to me,
No,
honestly.
it really doesn't. But
Mm-mm.
yes, we did get our bottom two as Gigi and Nane.
But not just for us, David, because the girls were gagged that Godlin was safe, and
Mhm.
Godlin was gagged that Godlin was safe. Like
Godwin was gagged a lot.
she said, like, I should be lip syncing.
Mhm.
She said it. So I agree.
Yeah.
But I'm happy she's still there because I want to see more of Godlin. I just
For sure.
wanted to see her lip sync this episode.
Right. But we do get our lip sync. I can't remember what the song was. It was, I will tell you in just a second. It was Music Lover by Marsha.
Of course.
What did you think of this lip sync?
I thought it was good overall. But there's something about Gigi to me. There's an energy, a stage presence. She just makes you want to look at her and pay attention to what she's doing. To me, I feel like Nani delivered a good, solid lip sync. Great. But Gigi was she's just mesmerizing to watch. Like when they started, Nane did like she flipped the fan and kind of like made it snow. I don't know if it was snow or confetti, whatever. But then they cut to Gigi and she was just like serving face and working that boa. Like it was so hypnotizing to me. But then even after like she put the boa on the floor and like removed the head scarf and like got more into it, like she just paces her performances so well, in my opinion. And she makes me want to stay engaged to see what she's gonna do next. It's just like the way that she moves her body is I want to see what she's doing. I just could not take my eyes off of her.
Okay.
But
That's
what did you
interesting.
think?
So I thought they both did well. I think for me, it might be a case of diminishing returns with Gigi since I've seen her lip sync 3 times now, all pretty recently. So
Mm-hmm.
while I did like what she was doing, it just was like, okay, I've seen this. I've seen this before. Like it's still good. But there wasn't
Right.
just anything about her in this lip sync that particularly surprised me. But I couldn't keep my eyes off of Nane. And I think part of it is she's in this really big outfit. So it was like, well, you're going to be restricted with your mobility. But she didn't let it stop her at all. She had this huge wig on and I'm like, how is that wig staying on your head? Like she kept moving and that wig was just right in place. And so I was just really locked in with Nane. And eventually she did take it off. We got a wig reveal. So I was like, well, that's on theme for this
Another
episode.
one.
Mhm. So yeah, for me, Nane would have been my winner.
Oh.
So
See, it wasn't like a total
knockout.
complete destruction. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. It's just honestly the performance, if I look at it objectively, tie, honestly,
Hmm.
to me. It's just personally, I am obsessed with watching Gigi perform. So that's literally the only reason why I think she won. But honestly, it would be very weird to send Nane home and keep Gigi at this point. So
Hmm.
I get it.
Yeah.
And was not mad at all. I mean,
Yeah.
sad because I do like Gigi, but it was the correct decision, I think.
Yes, I agree. So eliminated is Gigi, and it was a very emotional elimination. But before we get into that part, um, this I kind of alluded to this a second ago, but Godlin is like shocked. She's shocked that Gigi went home. So I guess she's more with you here. But this was not the first time that Godlin was shocked. She was also shocked that Frankie won the challenge. Like, Godlin, what are you what are you watching? Are you even here?
Right? Did they watch
Do
each
you think you are
other's?
here? Do you think you are here?
Yeah, maybe. See, Willem has said, and Alaska has confirmed it, that sometimes when they record things or do things like, and we see one thing, and sometimes they see a different edit
Mm,
on, like,
that makes
when
sense.
they're filming from each other, right? So sometimes they see something different than we see. I don't know if that's all the time, but I know that it can happen or has happened. So
Fair.
maybe.
I will say in this instance with this challenge, we got the full 3-minute cut of them doing the Maxi challenge. So I'm not sure how they could have seen anything different. Just
Right.
maybe it didn't connect with Godlin, and maybe she didn't listen to the critiques that Frankie got, which made it very obvious that she was going to win. So yeah, but she was also shocked about Gigi going, and Gigi was very emotional in this moment. She had another very like big breakdown on the stage. The girls in the background too, like they were like collapsing, a couple of them. Just I don't know, the shock or the sadness seeing Gigi go. So clearly she made a huge impact on her sisters.
Yeah, I feel like the girls were feeling Gigi's emotions with her a little bit. And also everyone is exhausted. So when you're exhausted, if something is sad, it's depressing. You know what I mean? So it's I understand. It's more intense when you're tired and physically and emotionally. So, and
Mhm.
they're friends as well. Like everyone there, like the six of them are very close, it seems. So yeah, maybe because also they knew that Gigi was emotional already. Like it was just a very emotional day.
Yes, but with that said, I do see a lot of potential in Gigi. I think she had kind of a rocky season, but I really love her fashion sensibilities, and I think that she does have like this spark in her, and I would really be into seeing her on a versus a world at some point.
I feel like it's just I see in her like um the pain of being in your early 20s. It's very much very I don't know if she is, but that's how it feels.
Mm,
When you're just kind of discovering who you are or who you were and don't want to be anymore, like all of that, and figuring out life and what you want and who you are and all of that, it is a lot. And then being confronted with a lot of things that maybe you were not ready to face while you are filming a reality show it's a lot. So I get it. And I
mhm.
hope that I hope that she does come back. But when she does, I hope that she has worked on that and is stronger mentally and emotionally to be there, because I feel like we would see great things for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Godlin mentioned in confessionals, like when they were in the little edit of her exit, that she felt guilty
Oh yeah.
over Gigi leaving. So maybe that's why she was so devastated.
Yeah, I forgot about that because she's like, well, I could have done something better to help her succeed. And I'm like, Godland,
She's
you,
like,
you
oh,
don't have to
she
take
thought that
responsibility.
Gigi winded up in the bottom because of her. I feel like maybe, I don't know. I understand, but it's just like, yeah, you could have
Mhm.
done more, but also she could have done more. So it's
Right. Yep. But we do have a draft update. So I noticed nothing. What's
before
that?
that, because we usually there's nothing of interest in the little sneak peek that we have in
Okay.
the end. But
Mhm.
this time we have a sneak peek of next week's guest judge, Nikki
We do.
Doll.
Yes.
I was gagged. I was gagged. I'm
Yeah, I
excited.
noticed Nikki. I had to rewind it too. I was like, is that
Me
Nikki?
too. Like,
uh,
wait.
and I think I had heard that. I think somebody told me that she was going to be a guest judge, but I forgot about it. But it also looks like it's going to be a makeover challenge. So
Yes. Hmm.
should be
Yeah,
fun.
top 5 is usually when they do it. So
Mhm. But we do have a draft update now.
mhm.
The only thing that changed were the bottom 2 placing people's flipped, which isn't good for me because that means I
Not
am
the
now in.
bottom flipping.
Yes. Well,
Well,
now I'm in 5th place with 36.5 points. Brandon has moved up to 4th place with 37.5 points, all because Spicy apparently was a top. If Spicy was also a bottom, then I would be ahead of Brandon as well. 3rd place is Eduardo with 51 points. 2nd place is Lana with 59 points. And 1st place is Logan with 65 points.
oh,
Mhm.
okay. What's his team again? Logan's?
Um, I believe he has Frankie. No, he doesn't have Frankie. He has ZP
And Nane?
and he had Siam um, and Godland.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that makes sense. But with that said, we talked about the episode. It was a fun one for sure, a very interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like, wow, I'm so sad you all covered this in less than an hour, I want to hear more. Well, guess what? You're in luck because we are going to be talking about the looks on Look Over Here, and that's going to be dropping pretty soon after you see this. It might already be out by the time you see this. Who knows? But while you're here, please do us a favor and subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, leave comments. I love reading comments. And you can also follow us on social media. Actually, you can't follow River because River's a little private with social media, and that's
I don't
fair.
exist. And
There we go. And I've had my Blue Sky scrolling. It's the same thing on Twitter, and I have my Instagram here. So follow us on all of those, and you can look in the link in the bio and find us on any podcast platforms where we're available. Also, if you're interested in buying any merch, you can do that at the link below, lanagcreations.etsy.com, where you can buy things like cup mugs and other things like t-shirts, which I just bought a t-shirt and it should be coming in the mail either tomorrow or the next day. So we'll see. It's going to be here very soon.
a
So I
new
can't
cute
wait for it.
shirt for the rotation.
Exactly. Yes. But with that said, we are going to get out of here. So cheers.
Cheers.